would be a great way to engage senior males living within the area while taking part in something that is the first steps towards changing their attitudes and habits towards alcohol. The club would aim to achieve this by reducing members' alcohol intake by producing a brew that would be of a lower alcohol percentage. The idea initially came from the research that we carried out, where we first went to visit Dunnor Community Centre, where we got to speak to Carol, who is a member of the Community Development Project there, who their main goal is to look after the older generations living within the area. She highlighted one of their main concerns for them at the moment, which is the lack of the male presence within the centre itself, and that the current services that are being provided and targeted towards older generations are only being utilised by the women in the area. So we knew from this that we wanted to create a service that would somehow get the men involved. We also wanted to utilise the skills that are present within the Liberties, and with Guinness having its home here, brewing is a pretty dominant one. And this was kind of confirmed to us when we met Douglas here, who is one of the many retirees who comes to the Guinness Storehouse daily to receive his complimentary dinner. So with this combined knowledge, we felt that developing the idea of the microbrewing club would be the way to go.
So how are people going to find out about this? Well, our main way of recruiting people would be our beer mats. So these would be placed in pubs where the clientele is of the demographic that we're targeting. As well as that, we really want to get the barman involved. I think the barman could be a really important asset for this project. They know their customers, and they would have built up a good level of trust with their regulars. This is really beneficial because people will be a lot more inclined to take part in something that is being promoted by someone that they trust. Furthermore, the barmen would know or notice the people that would most benefit or enjoy being part of this club. And also just general word of mouth would be effective for us, as it's a small world.
So how would this club work? We've designed the service so that each month is divided into 4 stages. Each week comprises of a key part of the process to keep the members engaged in the club. To support this, at the end of the first night, everyone gets a loyalty card with their first stamp. The idea of the loyalty card is to create a sense of involvement, motivates people to keep coming back each week, and it also visualises their achievements. There are 4 steps needed to make a batch of beer each month, and the user picks up a stamp as each step is achieved. At the end of the process, each stamp corresponds to 1 bottle of beer, which the user can take home with them. So on the first night, which would be the first week, the lunch night, this would take place at 8 p.m. in a familiar setting, such as the back room of a local pub. When everyone has arrived, 2 leaders give a brief welcome and explain how the club works. After that, they will get stuck in straight away so as to diminish any apprehensions about the process. The men sit in 2 groups around tables with the equipment and ingredients needed to put their first batch of beer on. Together, they learn how to sterilise and clean the equipment, measure and add the ingredients. Altogether, the session lasts an hour and a half each week. So on week 2, they gather together again at the same time, same place, to add the sugar to the batch and bottle the beer. They use recycled bottles collected from the local pubs by the members themselves.
So in week 3, the next step is labelling the bottles. The bottling process can be quite messy, so this week the members would gather and wipe the bottles off, cut out the labels and paste them on. We found a nice way of doing this is to dip the underside of the label in milk and you can paste it on nicely that way. By week 4, the batch is ready to taste. So everyone gets together, they taste the beer, discuss the flavour and take note of any changes they would like to make for the next week when the cycle starts again and they put on a new batch.
So we felt the club itself would have the potential to be a social enterprise. Initially, we thought that if members paid a monthly €5 charge, that would cover the cost of equipment and ingredients. But then in the long run, we felt that it has the potential to support itself. For instance, if a bigger batch was made so that there was extra bottles left over after each member has earned their 4 bottles, that these bottles then could go on to be stocked in local pubs or off licences. And then the money earned from the sale of these bottles then would pay for next month's batch, making the club self-sufficient. There's a high probability of this happening, as when we talked to Pat the barman in Ryan's, which is a pub just further down the road here, Initially, when we were talking to him about the idea of the club, he interrupted us saying that he would be interested in a product like ours. And the same when we went to the off-licence next door across the road. The manager there said that he would be interested in stocking a product like ours if it existed in the market. So not only would having the bottles placed in other environments create advertising so it would be a way of attracting new members. It would be a way of making the club being able to support itself.
So the main outcomes of this service are firstly the educational aspect. The men involved learn a new skill which creates a sense of achievement. Then there's the social aspect. This club provides an environment to form new friendships. The service also has an enterprising potential. This authentic community beer made by the men could have a local commercial potential in the long run.
So as well as that, the club is really something to be proud of and something that you would want to tell others about and pay it forward. As Niamh explained, it could become self-sufficient. So once the members start to get used to the process of actually brewing, they could then start designing the labels themselves and maybe think about exploring different brews like a cider for summer. In autumn, they could make an ale or a porter around Paddy's Day. And finally then, and most importantly, the health aspect of it. So first of all, by making a low percentage beer and by inadvertently reducing the amount of beers that the men drink, we see this as making the first steps towards changing people's habits and attitudes towards drinking. And on top of that, working on a project together would be, with people who are like-minded, would be mentally stimulating, so it would be good for their general overall well-being and mental health. Because as Men's Shed say, men don't talk face-to-face, they talk shoulder-to-shoulder. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.